What it is, guys, it's your boy BlastphamousHD, and today we're going to watch 15 people that survived living nightmares. I love watching top 10, top 15, top 20, stuff like that. You know, I love gathering information in these types of ways. If you guys want to check out DangerDrone, the link to his channel will be in the description down below. Lego.
From inspirational stories of people who wouldn't let serious misfortune keep them down, to people that lived through an inferno of misery and barely made it out alive, we count 15 people that survived the living hell.
Number 15.
Kelly Mansell, a car, a boat crash and severe burns. So Kelly had an unfortunate moment of weakness at the wheel of her car. She fell asleep and swerved straight into a horrible crash. While she was still trying to recover the shock and injury of a crash, she went to her family's lake house to relax, only to have the boat explode. The flames burned her severely, and she had to relearn to walk and had incurred a pretty serious case of PTSD.
Damn!
When she got back to high school, her peers made fun of her pink skin and lack of eyebrows. But this didn't bring her down. Instead of hiding in her home and letting life pass her by, she achieved an amazing level of fitness and is now a fitness instructor who loves life.
Number 14.
Damn!
Rory Sullivan, 7 lightning strikes. That's right, there's a man out there that has survived 7 separate cases of lightning strikes.
What the fuck?
I mean, how on earth could you convince yourself to go outside ever again? Yet this man still works outdoors in the Shenandoah National Park as a maintenance worker.
Nope.
Either this guy isn't that bright, or he has balls so big and dense they might as well be element number 119 on the periodic table. This isn't the end of his Sullivanian balls. He's also fought off 22 different bears, one of which he had to fight off right after one of his lightning strikes.
What the
Number 13.
Michalina Lewandowska, burned alive. So you remember that awesome scene in Kill Bill Volume 2 where the bride survived being shot and buried alive but only escaped because she had all that training in Korea? Well, this woman survived the real version of that, and she is awesome. Her psychopath husband decided to tase, bind, gag, put her in a box and then bury her. She got out without any goddamn help or martial arts training. She cut the binding with a wedding ring because she had the willpower of 1,000 sons.
Obviously.
To save her child.
Number 12.
Rachel Shardlow box jellyfish sting. So the box jellyfish is the world's most venomous creature, and a 10-year-old survived what had previously been considered a 100% lethal dosage. These things kill with potassium, not the banana kind, the kind that's generally used in lethal injection, and will stop anyone's heart with a high enough dose. Anyone, that is, except for Rachel. Unfortunately, she has scarring and a bit of short-term memory loss.
Damn!
Take in the fact that she essentially survived an execution, she's not only well off, but an amazing example of humanity.
Damn!
Ken Henderson, stranded at sea for over 30 hours. After Ken and Ed Cohen's boat started to sink, they strapped their life jackets together and treaded water in the sea for what must have seemed an eternity. But there was a problem. Ed started to hallucinate and had trouble staying upright, and Ken had to make a choice. He had to cut the strap between them and embark on the long and nigh impossible task of finding his friend some help. While Ken found the boat and saved his own life, he couldn't save his friends. This guy had to make an incredibly tough choice that unfortunately didn't pay off, but hats to him for surviving such an ordeal.
Number 10.
Peter Sibold rocket explosion. Peter got his pilot's license when he was only 16 and he's been flying ever since. He has a career in test flying and was the only survivor of Virgin Galactic's 2014 Spaceship Two VSS Enterprise crash. He survived multiple broken bones, eye damage due to low temperature, and it's still unknown if he'll ever be allowed to fly again. Peter doesn't remember the majority of the crash because of sudden decompression at such a high altitude. What he does remember is suddenly waking up in the air with a parachute on, with his best friend nowhere to be seen.
Number 9.
Bahia Bakari, the oceanic plane crash. So Bahia was only 14 when her plane crashed in the Indian Ocean. The flame, water and wreckage took the lives of every other passenger on the plane, including her mother. She had no life jacket, poor swimming skills, but she held herself above the vengeful ocean by clinging to a chunk of the plane for over 9 hours before being rescued. She was flown back to what remained of her family and was an instant headline for surviving the deadliest sole survivor crash since the dawn of aviation.
Number 8.
Aaron Ralston, cutting off your own arm to survive.
I heard of this
Aaron
guy.
was on a day-long hike in Utah when he slipped and fell into the canyon. But then a giant boulder fell onto his arm, crushing it, and he was left helpless because he made the mistake of not letting anyone know where he was. He was stuck at the boulder for 5 days before he began to attempt to saw his arm off with a small knife. But he realized that the dull knife couldn't possibly get through the bone until, in a eureka moment, he realized he could break his arm using the boulder as a lever. Aaron left the canyon and was elated because he had already resigned himself to death. Now Aaron is a happy man with a successful movie and book based off his incredible hardship, which hopefully can fill at least part of his arm-sized hole.
Number 7.
Damn!
Homeless man, Ebola. This man survived the virus that no one wants, but when he got the news he had no idea how anything would play out. He was scared and convinced he was going to die in a horrible way. One by one his family members died around him until his only company was men in heavily guarded suits that wouldn't look out of place in a global disaster movie. Once he was told that the disease was expelled from his body, he had a moment of celebration with the doctors, but he was only treated with fear and repulsion when he was let out of the hospital.
Number 6.
I
Jake
bet.
Bonner, the
Oh.
flesh-eating bacteria. Jake was only 5 when he cut the lip of his mouth with a basketball hoop. It wasn't long before the doctors realized he had contracted a deadly flesh-eating bacteria known as necrotizing fasciitis. The doctors weren't optimistic as the disease generally has a 50% death rate, even though he lived in America, not a third world country where medical aid is sparse. He survived, which was declared a miracle by the Pope, while he was severely disfigured and had to have facial reconstructive surgeries around the corner. He can now live a long and healthy life.
Number 5.
Damn.
Felix, the Mexican drug cartel kidnapping. It's no secret that the Mexican drug cartels are despicable human beings, if you want to call them that, and Felix's story only proves this statement. Felix was captured, held for a $5,000 ransom, but when his poverty-stricken family were asked to pay a second payment, they stopped answering the calls. So Felix had to survive weeks of electric shocks, pistol whipping, and many beatings with planks of wood before he made it out thanks to extraordinary luck. But the scarred man is now too afraid to leave the nunnery in which he now resides.
Number 4.
D. Torture. So Ms. D lives in Africa with a master's degree in health. In the year 2000, she was detained by her government and falsely accused of colluding with an illegal organization. She was detained for 27 days and was tortured for a large amount of that time. She was shocked to the soles of her feet, regularly beaten, and had icy water dumped on her and left in a refrigerated room. When she was released, she wouldn't be able to trust anyone for a long time. She was eventually allowed asylum to the US.
Number 3.
Holly
Damn.
Gunn, serial killer. Holly and her boyfriend Chris left a party together when a dead-eyed man held Chris hostage. He demanded cash, but they only had card, so he tied Chris up, and in that moment, she had a chance to flee but decided she couldn't leave her loved one. Next thing she knew, she was tied and gagged and ditched next to the train tracks. The man disappeared, so she quickly freed herself and Chris, but the man returned and knocked out Chris with one blow to the head with a rock. The man then took down her jeans and she kicked and screamed, but was silenced by a sharp prick in her neck. She then fell unconscious, woke up and dragged herself to the hospital where she learned that Chris was dead.
Number 2.
Alicia Kozakiewicz.
Fuck.
Rape and torture. When Alicia was 13, she was tricked into believing she was talking to someone her own age. It was actually a child predator that lured her into a meeting in person. She was held in captivity for 4 days where she was raped, tortured, and the whole thing was broadcasted on the internet. However, this was his downfall, as one of the viewers reported him to the FBI from a payphone. When Alicia grew up, she became an advocate for internet safety and missing persons. She has grown to be so successful in her attempts to enlighten the public that the group she founded created enough public attention to have a law set in place that pumps revenue into finding missing people.
Number 1.
Kitty Hart Moxham, Auschwitz.
Damn.
In 1943, Kitty, at the young age of 17, and her mother were taken by the Nazis to Auschwitz. They were put before a firing squad and thought they were going to die. However, the whole thing was a farce, and they changed their death sentences to life in labor. Her job involved working with dead prisoners. It wasn't long before she contracted and survived typhus. While continuing to work among the dead, eventually they were sent to another factory, and then they were left to die in a locked train car. But a group of German soldiers found them and they were moved to yet another camp. In the second week of April 1945, the nearby city was liberated and the camp was abandoned by all of its guards. And from there they returned to safety and began working as translators for the British Army, where they lived out the rest of their lives and eventually became an educator and a book writer, and they're still alive to this day, being an amazing human being that is stronger than I could have hoped to be. That's it for this countdown.
And have a go. God damn. I swear to God, watching videos like this kind of like lets you realize that your problems mean absolutely nothing. Oh man, if you guys want to check out DangerDrone, man, make sure to click the link down below. He makes some of the best top 10 videos or top 10, 15s, top 20s on YouTube, in my opinion, man. This shit was straight up freaking interesting. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to comment, like, and or subscribe. As always, your boy BlastphamousHD, Twisms. Make sure to check out my prank channel. I'm uploading 2 brand new pranks every single week, as this one you see on the left. Click the annotation if you want to watch that, or look in the description where I'll leave a link for the people who are on phones. And as always, BlastphamousHD out.